What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Another episode on the Caddy, and it is turbo day. If you see the last video, turbo went bang literally round the block. I've got most of the bits off. We've got the downpipe off, drive shaft out, boost pipes out. All the boost pipes are draining. We're on to the last 3 bolts on the manifold. I've undone the harder ones. We are just about to see what went on. And as I always say, do the hardest job first. That way your day gets easier. Well, especially on a manifold. Because if you leave the hardest bolt till last and the manifold starts to fall off and you've got to undo a hard to get to bolt and hold the manifold, it's double trouble. So leave the easiest bolts till the very end and I can get straight in there with a buzz gun. Can't do that on the hardest bolt. It is going to fall off after this. She's loose. I have already found some bits falling out the intake pipe. Lots of oil draining out. We'll talk about that in a minute. Oh, nearly. Oh, oil. Anyway, I'm going to get myself cleaned up. Let's have a look, see what's going on. Oh yeah. Right, so we've got clean hands-ish. And I just want to stumble across a couple of things from the last video, as I did have a couple of comments from professional tuners. First of all, they spotted that the map that I was uploading had a different SW code to what the actual Caddy is, and the SW code is the identification of that vehicle. The Golf and the Caddy might have the exact same engine, the same engine code, the same ECU code, but the identity of said ECUs was different, and uploading the wrong one can brick the ECU. I never knew that. I thought you could just upload the same map to multiple different vehicles, but if they've got a different serial number, SW code, identification, then it's not right. It's not how you do it. So I appreciate the comments and the feedback, because I never knew that. I know that now. And I just want to quickly say, not all remaps end like that. Now, if you go to a professional tuner, someone who knows what they're doing, that won't happen, because the map that I uploaded to the Caddy, that was a generic map that I got from the Golf that I had already blown 3 turbos. My own fault for sticking it on, but it's my own vehicle. That's why I don't remap other people's cars. If you'd gone to a professional tuner, he would do data logging with VCDS, VAGCOM, specified versus actual boost, and a few other parameters in the drop down selection, and that would see how things are, how well your turbo's performing or underperforming. And a good tuner, if things ain't right, they won't remap it, because they know that is going to happen. So yeah, don't be put off by my last video for getting your vehicle remapped. Just shop around and speak to people, look for feedback. It's not always best to go for the cheaper one, so if some guy on Facebook who drives a Vauxhall Corsa says he can do it for 50 quid, steer clear. Speak to people, phone around, go to a good reputable tuner. It's worth paying the extra money, and this won't happen, and you'll learn from it. A guy that turns up with a basic computer like I have and remaps it, you won't learn from him, because he doesn't know himself. And I do recommend remaps. A free flowing exhaust and a remap on any diesel massively improves the longevity of the engine, the injectors, fuel economy, everything. So I do recommend remaps. Just get them done by someone who knows what they're doing. I did have, and the 2 people that got in touch saying about the file or said something else, they actually offered to help with a file remap service, and massive thank you for that. I'm going to put links, both of their websites, in the description. JCS tuning, I think it was, and there was another one. I'll put both in the description because they both shouted out and they could spot what I was doing wrong just by looking at a few shots on my laptop. Anyway, let's move on from that. Thank you to everyone who left me feedback saying they wanted to see the turbo video. I didn't want to overload you with Caddy videos. Happy you all wanted to see it. I do like changing the turbo. They're easy. I can get one off in about 45 minutes. They're nice and easy. I've got a collection of bits here, so you're going to get a 60-second DTE rundown on how a turbo works. Most of you will already know if you're watching and you're a subscriber. To those that don't, have a look. We've got a couple of different turbos here. This one is off a PD150 Leon, and this is the VB turbo I spoke of in the last video. This is one of the biggest ones they do factory. No, it is the biggest turbo they do from factory for the 1.9s. It's exactly the same on the outside as the VA turbo, which is found in the PD130s and the BKD PD140s, the 2 litre, but they've got different manifolds. The manifolds don't come apart. You have to change the core bolts and pull the core out. But the difference is that the inducer, let's get this one. The inducer, which I believe I've got these the right way round. Again, shoot me down. Let me know in the comments if I've got these the wrong way round. I know stuff that some of my terminology might be wrong. I'm no expert. I'm just good at undoing stuff and fixing it. The inducer, which I believe is the cold side. Let me know if I'm wrong. And then the other side, which is the exducer. That shouldn't move, by the way, so if that moves, yours is pretty knackered. As the exhaust gases flow out of the manifold through the turbo housing, they go past this turbine wheel and they make that spin really fast, and because they're attached, that makes this turbine wheel spin too, and this one spinning creates the boost pressure that goes into the engine and gives you that punch. Now, the main difference between the VA and the VB turbo, they physically look the same, but the inducer and exducer wheels are slightly bigger. 1 mil bigger, I believe. I have used a VB core in a complete VA housing and exhaust housing. Quickly, that is a new core and there's no movement in that. That's what you want. Let's put that to one side. Collection of bits. Now on to turbos. This is a VB, a slightly bigger one. Again, it physically looks the same, but the wheels inside are slightly bigger. So what I do, I take the compressor housing, snail looking thing, I take that down to my local machinist who's on the estate, Casa, nice one for all your machining. He opens it up by 1 mil and then that will fit onto the VB turbo core. Now someone did comment and they said you can't use the VB turbo on the PD140. Well, I have many times, and I have read it on the internet. I'm not a world's first or anything, but what you have to do, because the manifolds are different, you take the core and preferably the compressor housing, because then you haven't got to get it machined out. Then you get the leaking oil everywhere. Then we get the PD140 BKD turbo, take the core out of this, take it to the same machine man. He opens up the hole in the center by 1 mil, then the VB core fits in to the PD140 turbo housing. We know that the wheels on each end are bigger. That creates a better boost pressure at a lower RPM maybe, I don't know. They can flow better air, less stress on the turbo, and I also believe the shaft, which is a broken one from said Caddy, is slightly thicker, so it's slightly stronger. That is really thin. Anyway, it's enough talk on turbos and the differences and what's going on. Let's get this one taken apart. Oh my god. Let's get this one taken apart and see what's inside. We have got absolute mess everywhere. Oil is poured out of absolutely every orifice, and the reason why they smoke when they go is there is 2 litres of oil. Hopefully you can see that. Is that 2 litres? That's more than 2 litres. That has come out of the exhaust and the boost pipes. When a turbo properly goes, the turbine shaft snaps in half, both wheels pop out, and that stops the oil seal from being sealed. All the oil pressure that's pumping into the turbo pumps into the exhaust and into the intake, into the boost side, sorry. Never undo any of these small bolts. We've got 10s on one side, 8s on the other. Never undo them with the open end of a spanner, because they will always slip. The 10s are a bit tighter. Yeah, try and get a ring spanner on there. Well, you have to get a ring spanner on there. I've had a lot that haven't come undone in the past, and then it's a pain in the backside. With the clip, just get a small pick, keep your finger over it because you need it. And if it pings off, you could be in for a world of pain looking for it. Needle in a haystack. Right, we've got the clip off. I'll take a quick time lapse of taking it apart, and then I'll get you back when we actually see what's going on. It's not too pretty. Roll the time lapse. Right, compressor side, cold side. Well, there's a couple of pieces, which is good. That is the compressor wheel. If we remember in one of the other shots, that should look like that. And what's happened is the shaft has snapped, that has come off, and that has spun round in the housing, causing that devastation. Now, when you change your turbo, you need to check all intake pipes. If you fit a new turbo and you haven't found all the broken pieces, this will be sat in your intake pipe, maybe into your airbox. Once you drive up the road and hit boost, that gets sucked into the new turbo and then destroys the new one. Happily, I have already found the snapped part of the turbine shaft, and just as important, I've found the nut that goes on the end. I've found these nuts before, and it was loose. Obviously it wasn't loose until it blew. I have found those nuts before in the air filter. Now, if you don't check to find them, it's going to eat your new turbo in no time at all. Compressor housing has got absolutely loads of munches and scores out of it. You probably could use it again, but you're going to lose boost. We're not using that anyway. That is a VA turbo. We knew that. That's what comes standard on the PD140s and the PD130s. If you've got a PD130, upgrade to the VB at the very minimum ASAP. Now, we need to get the core. You search for them on eBay. They're called CHRA, C-H-R-A. We need to get that out of the exhaust housing, because I need this exhaust housing. I'll explain what's going on in a minute. I have hit that before and then I've snapped that, but we don't need the core obviously because it's no good. Well, it's coming already. Oh yeah. And right, if you've ever done one of these turbos, just quickly, if you've ever done one of these turbos, try to undo the oil feed pipe, and then the union bolt is just spinning with it. What an absolute nightmare that can be. I get a 17mm spanner, I've ground the sides flat, and then when the union bolt is at the correct angle, I'm not going to be able to, am I going to be able to do it now? Oh, come on. Well, this is how I just got it off anyway, because mine did start to spin. Now that fits in there and locks in there. If you don't grind the spanner down, it won't fit in. That is a top tip on how to undo the oil feed pipe. I believe I need this union bolt, so I'm taking him straight off while he's loose. He is going in the box of love, and you can see the turbine shaft. I'm sure if I pulled it hard enough, it would come out, but these are very sharp. They've already pricked me. Excuse me. That can stay in there. Now, yeah, you can see what's going on. The shaft snapped, and oil pressure that goes in there literally pumps out of there and out of there. We had about 1 litre of oil in the exhaust, and we had about 2 litres, maybe slightly less, in the intercooler. So as we know, this is off the BKD PD140. It normally houses the VA turbo, the slightly smaller one, and this is a turbo from an ARL PD150, and it is literally almost a brand new core. So I saved that one from a previous project. I am going to take this core out and fit it in that exhaust housing. You do need to get that hole in the centre machined out by a mill. It's still in good condition. This is cast steel, so it isn't munched away like the compressor housing is. We open that up by 1 mil, and this VB core fits straight in to the VA manifold. That's what I'm going to do, but that is not for the Caddy. Let me explain. I have this turbo. What is that you say? What does that number say? GTB1756VK. What's that off? That sounds familiar. Where's the Golf? Golf's over there. How'd the Golf get over there? Eh? Yeah, sorry guys. Sorry to all the Golf lovers out there. I have nicked the Golf's turbo. Now, this is a bit of a hybrid that I put together. And again, it's not something I've done. I've just copied it off the internet. And what is going on here is that is a PD140 BKD manifold, and the lower half of this turbo is from the 3 litre V6 TDI Audi, and it can run 2.2 bar all day long. Absolutely loves it. I did also have to modify the end of this hard pipe. I got it chopped and angle changed, and then we've got a different type of downpipe. We've got a dark side exhaust flange there that was leaking a bit. I probably should have nipped it up a bit more, but I couldn't smell anything. Anyway, this has come off the Golf, and the reason I've taken it off the Golf is I was going to do this exact turbo for the Caddy, but it would have cost me another 400 quid in bits, time, effort. I've nicked it off the Golf. It's going on the Caddy, the same engine, and I am going to put, look at the state of all this mess. I am going to put that VB turbo, the slightly bigger one, in that BKD manifold, and that is going on the Golf. It's getting a slight downgrade, I'm sorry. It will still go like the clappers, still got the uprated brakes, clutch, intake, etc, etc. It is just having the smallest of downgrades. So I do apologise to any Golf lovers on the channel, but I'm not going to make two, because I did have to do quite a bit of dob teching. What you have to do, you have to cut the manifold off, because as we know, they don't unbolt. You have to cut along that part of the exhaust manifold, then get it cast welded. I don't do cast welding. Then you get it cast welded to the actual 3 litre V6 turbo. Now, I can look at the size of the housing. The housing's bigger for shells. And as it's the GTB, the letters meaning GTB is the VNT. Those turbos are slightly older. They're only GT1749 turbos, VA and VB. This is GTB, so it's the later VNT, 1756. So it's got a much bigger set of wheels in it and a bigger exhaust housing. And what comes with a bigger exhaust housing? Well, more exhaust flow out of the exhaust, more noise out of the exhaust. That's why if you've ever heard a really loud diesel, it's probably got quite a big turbo on it, because those little turbos, only small amounts of air can get out of those, and small amounts of air can get out of the VNTs. That's why they're more quiet and whistly rather than loud and throaty. So that is what is going on. Again, sorry to the Golf for slight downgrades, but it'll still be quick, it'll still be a good car. That is my collection of bits, bobs, all sorts. We need to clean the oil up. I hate oil on the floor, especially when you step in it and traipse it around the workshop. Before I fit the Golf turbo, I am going to take the intake pipe off, and I am going to check it for debris. We don't want a single piece in there. And I'm also going to get as much oil out of the intercooler and clean all the boost pipes out. Make sure there's no oil in them, because I have driven a car down the road before after a turbo, and it does spray oil from the intercooler into the intake, and then it starts to run on a little bit. If you ever have a car run on with oil, turbo failure, lots of smoke, engine revving, can't turn it off, put it in 5th gear, hold the brake, let the clutch out, that will stall the engine. Rather than blowing the engine up, it can be fixed. But if you let it run on until it goes bang, then it's knackered. Anyway, going to clean the intake pipes out, get the turbo on, and yeah, let's get this back together. I'm looking forward to driving this again, especially with the bigger turbo. Oh yeah. Just quickly, that is my intake pipe. Can you see all those metal pieces in there? Any of those, all of those would have ended up going through the turbo and damaging the inducer wheel. Now, I will clean that, I will pressure washer it out, I'll then brake cleaner it, blow it dry, make sure there's nothing in it. I will go even further, and I'm going to take all the air filter out and check all in the intake air box and make sure there's none in there. The last thing we want to do is damage our new turbo. Hour and a half later, it's all back together. We've mildly tidied up. We'll wait till we get it out the way. Cleaned all the intake pipes out, cleaned the intercooler out. I pumped a load of brake cleaner in the ends of the intercooler, blew it out with a blower. I've left the bottom boost pipe off, and when I pull it outside, I'm going to put a piece of cardboard under it, so any oil that's still trapped in there will get caught on the cardboard. I'll pop the boost pipe on, and happy days. I did find a few more pieces in pipe work, so you must check all pipe work after a blown turbo. I've left the airbox off for now. I need to quickly check that. I've drained the rest of the oil out, fresh 540 PD oil. One thing I will mention, earlier in the video I said about it'll be a bit louder out the exhaust. Well, on the Golf I had a straight pipe with that turbo. It was too loud, so I ended up putting another box in it. Well, this has got a straight pipe, and that's how it came when I bought it, so it's going to be pretty loud. I have just received a parcel, and that is the new box and the 4-inch rolled tip that I mentioned. There is going to be residue of oil in the exhaust. It's going to smoke, so I'm going to start it, and before I rev it or do anything, I'm going to pull it straight outside the workshop so we don't fill the workshop full of smoke. Let's fire it up and let's see. Oh, she's loud. She's well loud. That is ridiculous. Sounds louder than on the Golf. Engine sounds good though. I did have to turn it a couple of times, and what I didn't do is wang it straight over. Let's get away from that, that is noisy. What I didn't do was just wang it over, because there was oil in the cylinders. We didn't want to bend a rod or something like that, so I just turn it a little bit, push the oil out, and then boom. That's loud. Yeah, I have got a new box for it. I'm going to bar the wheels up, check the airbox, put the airbox on, and then we'll take it out for a drive tomorrow. That is noisy. It is the following day. I took it out, used it for a couple of hours last night, and we done 50 miles in it. Absolutely problem free. Really happy. I didn't boot it. I don't want to risk it with this, with the map that's on it. It's a bit of a cowboy map, so I am not going to be booting it or hooning it until I can get the tuned map, which was tuned for this turbo, off the Golf, and I want to copy it over to this ECU as I was pointed out by someone last time when I done a remap, the SW code needs to be the same. We know that, so I don't want to risk it anymore. I have messaged the guy that does the remaps for me, or who done the golf remap for me anyway. I have asked him if he will copy the map from one ECU to another. Obviously I'll probably have to pay, I don't mind. Obviously, hopefully not full price, because I've already paid for the map once. I don't want any more mapping, I just want it transferring to another ECU. We shall see. No drive out today. Drive's good, it's loud as hell, and look how much oil. Look in the tailpipe and look at the back of my mint van that's no longer mint. Gonna give it a quick wash. And I mentioned the exhaust, it is a straight pipe, and I don't like that pea shooter twin pipe thing. I would go for the R32 centre bumper with centre exhausts, but I want the spare wheel to live underneath the Caddy on this. I'm not having it rolling about in the boot, so we have to have an exhaust to one side. Postman has turned up today. There is my, don't fall, that is my stainless box, 2.5 inch inlet and exit. Don't know how long it is. It is a straight bore centre box, middle box, back box, whatever you want to call it. So it won't restrict it or anything like that, but it will sound nicer. It sounds horrific at the moment, I'm sure you'll agree. And then, as I was an old Ford lover, probably not a massive favourite to some of you VAG lovers, as it is a bit of a Ford 90s thing, but I am a bit of a past Ford fan. I can stagger the tailpipe. You won't ever see that the actual exit is smaller than the tailpipe. Let's have a little butcher's. Something like that, a bit higher up, obviously in place, won't poke out at that much. You get the idea. I'm going to do that next week, so that'll be next episode. This episode was obviously fixing the turbo. It's a bit of a unplanned episode too, so what I'm going to do next video, we're going to get the spoilers on. Got them, need to get them painted. I have got the side rail, need to get that on. After looking at some things online, I might need a bracket. Well, I haven't got time to buy one, so I'm going to make one. I'm going to get the spoiler on, get the side rail cover on, get the exhaust on, and hopefully get the map done. I have also dropped the turbo down, the VB turbo, the slightly bigger turbo for the Golf, down to the machinist. We're going to get that back on the road ASAP. That is going up for sale. I need to get a stage 1 file service done. For that, I'll take logs, I can send it over. So if there is a tuner out there that actually does want to help, give us a shout out. I can give you a big mention in the video, because there'll be another video on the Golf in a few weeks. It'll be its last video. It'll be what we've done, what's done to it, how it drives, how much it is, all the good stuff. If you found the video useful, click the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.